Hello and welcome to another episode of the Talking of Minds podcast. In this episode, we will be talking about the psychology of financial fraud and con artists and their victims. We usually make fun of those people who fall for such clever fraud or con artists, and we just wonder why do people fall for this shit, or in fact, why didn't they see the obvious signs and all. The fact is that anyone, literally anyone, can fall for financial frauds and con artists or con men, as we call them, given the right circumstances and the right motivations. The annual size of the financial fraud activity in the US alone, in the United States alone, is around 3,70,000 crores. That's the size of the activity of con artists and financial fraud that is happening around. And a profile of the typical US victim of a financial fraud is a middle-aged, educated, financially literate, and white male person. That makes the average, the average American person itself. Given that most of the financial activities are taken care of by men, that is probably the reason why more men fall for these financial frauds. There is no evidence that women or transgenders or any other gender is immune from financial frauds. So literally all of us are susceptible to financial frauds. And the photos or the video clips that we see do not give us the real picture of what has happened. The various steps which happened, and the moments at which the people were forced to switch off their critical thinking and fall for the words of the financial fraud and all. So we'll see, what are the features of the perpetrators or people who do this kind of financial frauds. We have literally hundreds of con artists around the world, and some of them are very famous. For example, Mithilesh Kumar Srivastava from India, who was also called Natwarlal. There is a film also on his name. So, Natwarlal is reportedly said to have sold the Taj Mahal along with, the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the Red Fort more than once to people and swindled money from them. And he was punished in a number of cases, and he did break from jail multiple times. And it is said that he died absconding, from the law. And he's said to have conned the richest of the rich of the country multiple times. Now there is Victor Lustig, who sold Eiffel Tower to people, and there is Frank Abagnale Jr., who inspired the movie Catch Me If You Can, and he later became a consultant on fraud and financial misdeeds and all. So and there are very famous women. There are famous transgender people who all had become con artists and conned people at various points of time. So that's it. It's a pretty common thing, not a one-off incident. And how do they do this? How do they take advantage of very well educated and upper class and middle class people? One is they make use of cognitive biases which are present in all of us. And usually the people who do financial frauds or con artists are very good listeners. They are empathetic, at least they are able to appear as empathetic. They are not empathetic at the core at all. They are good at making us feel connected to them. They find common connections, common factors that link us with them. They put us at ease. They are able to make us feel comfortable so that they can make use of our emotions. And most of them are highly energetic and charming. They are the center of attraction wherever they go. They are able to win the trust of people very easily. And one of the other tactics that they have is they have excellent powers of persuasion. Persuasion is the act of changing attitude of people, and it is a skill that can be learned. It is something that is valued in many places of many professions such as marketing or sales or banking, etc. So these people are naturally very good at persuasion. They are very good at it. And by using these gifts, they are able to bypass the critical thinking of their victims. At some point, they force us, the victims, to switch off our critical thinking faculty and fall for their words or their enticements. And most of the times they create a sense of urgency in us also, especially when making us pay money. And this is used by many others also, as we see, even many TV commercials use the same technique of fear of missing out, which is called FOMO. And the money chain people that we see, they also have use this technique a lot. And besides these, there are some common personality factors that are seen, that are very highly correlated with people who do financial frauds and con acts. In another episode, I have talked about narcissism, what is narcissism and all. People who do financial fraud or take many people for a ride have something called dark triad personality characteristic. So dark triad is a combination of three psychological traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So narcissism is the sense of extreme self-importance, self-love, and ideas of pride and grandiosity, and a need for extreme fame and name and all. So narcissism is putting yourself at the center and wanting everything that you want, and an extreme love and care for yourself, and with that comes the disregard for the rights of others and all. So that's narcissism, to be very very simple and short. The second trait in the dark triad is Machiavellianism, which is the tendency to do manipulation and exploitation of others for our own goals. Having a strong focus on self-interest and an absence of morality. So this absence of morality makes it easy to do this manipulation and exploitation of others and feel no remorse for that. And psychopathy is basically an antisocial mindset with a disregard for laws and the unwritten rules that we all follow. A psychopath has no feelings of such, no regard for such laws and rules. Psychopaths are impulsive and they lack what we call as remorse or conscientiousness, or they don't feel bad for doing bad things, and they are also extremely selfish. So these are the three factors that make up what we call as the dark triad of personality. And dark triad is very highly correlated with people who do financial fraud and this con artists. This is not to say that all con artists will have very high levels of dark triad, or that all people who have high levels of dark triad personality will become con artists. But there exists a very high correlation between these two. And there have been a number of studies in which we look at dark triad personality in workplaces too. So people with dark triad can appear in many life situations, and in a very high number they happen to be con artists too. And sometimes this craze for fame and sometimes craze for money or those kind of things that give away their entire plot to others, and that's why some of them get caught. But as already said, people with the dark triad personality do not always end up being criminals or con artists. Many of those people get into banking, marketing, sales, investment, and any kind of areas where they have to persuade people. And some of them become very successful in what they do. because of these personality traits of persuading people, bypassing their critical thinking, forcing people to buy things that they do not need at all. And those successful people are sometimes given the award of the best salesman, the best marketer, or they become case studies in business schools, and we try and we teach our business students and marketing students to be like them. So that's how we do. So not all dark triad people go on to become con artists. So that's about the people who do financial fraud and cons. And we'll talk about the victims who become victims of financial fraud. As we already said, at least from the data from United States tells us that we all, anybody who has cognitive biases can fall victim for a financial fraud on a con artist. None of us are immune from that. And if we look hard enough into our own life, we can find events or things where later we asked ourselves, how did I fall for this? Why did I not notice those obvious signs of fraud or not those obvious signs? And we may have lost money, we may have lost our emotional resources, we may have lost time. Many of those things, we may have invested, and later it turned out that a person had taken us for a ride. So it can happen to all of us, and if we have enough resources with us, we can fall for the trap of a bigger financial fraud. And as I said, we fall victims because of our confirmation biases, including something called a confirmation bias, which is a tendency to look for, find, and estimate and interpret and even remember things that we want to see or hear. So they can very well make use of our confirmation biases, and the ease with which we trust people, especially once they have made an emotional connection with us. That's a very human tendency. That's another thing that makes us vulnerable to vulnerable to financial frauds and con artists. And these things sometimes make us participants, willing participants in this whole process of getting conned. We do, get to that many times. Other than this, we may also become more vulnerable when we are under important, stressful life changes. Any of those stages of life where you are stressed because of the changes in life over which you do not have much of a control. So you become more susceptible, more at risk of being a victim of a financial fraud in those kind of times. And people who are successful and happy or happier or successful than the others around them may also fall victims, because these positive feelings may cause them to not use their critical thinking resources much and fall for the emotional trap set by financial frauds. So that can also happen either because you are extremely stressed or because you are extremely happy or extremely successful. These are all factors that could make us susceptible to fall for such tricks. And what can make us fall for a religious cult or a cult leader, or become unsuspecting fans of a cult leader, can also make us victims of financial frauds, because these things all have some common elements about people who do this. And so that's another area of risk. So if you are susceptible to become a member of a religious cult, you are also susceptible to become a victim of a financial fraud. And many of us do not report these kind of crimes. We do, these kind of, victimhoods, because of, the feelings of shame and guilt. And that, in fact, becomes another weapon for the con artist to go on with their game. So that is the common factors about the people who become victims of financial frauds. And we also have to think of how to be more careful. There is no foolproof way, there is no 100% guarantee that we can do some things and we will never fall for a financial fraud. That's almost impossible, because we are humans, and humans are emotional beings. But again, we can be careful in certain aspects. So one is to be skeptic and respect our own doubts about especially when we are about to invest money or resources or our emotional resources. So have our own doubts and respect them, and do not be a paranoid person, but do not be a pushover, do not be an unsuspecting victim. So a little bit of skepticism is always good. And look for evidence, ask for evidence. For example, if you are told that if you give a certain amount of money which will be going to some form of a charity, use your own resources, not the person's own resources, use your own other resources to find out more information about the activity that you are going to donate to. Do not fall for a single source of information. There could be other sources where you can verify whatever you are going to do. That could help. And beware of this FOMO tactic of fear of missing out. So somebody says that this is the last chance, you don't have much time, you don't have time to think, you have to invest right now, or you have to get more people, or if you do not invest right now in this multi-level marketing multi-level marketing scheme, more people will join and you will lose your seniority. Those kind of tactics, beware of those kind of tactics. Many a times those are used by frauds to get your money to them. And we have to remember that we are all susceptible, and we are especially more susceptible when we are under positive or negative emotions, extreme positive or negative emotions. So give some time, take some time to take a decision, especially if you are under some of these extreme emotions. And be even more careful while dealing with people online, because the social media and the internet has a lot of ways to gather a lot of information about us that even we may not know. So it's very easy for a person to make this emotion connection, and trick you into giving them money online. And many a times we can see that the elder citizens around us are the ones who fall for this kind of telephone frauds and online frauds more than others. Even we have seen retired bureaucrats and retired police chiefs of the state falling for a product that that offered to sell her a high-end phone at a very cheap dirt price. So we have to be more careful while doing transactions and dealings online. And for some reason, at some point of time, if we have become a victim of such kind of a fraud, it's always the better thing to speak up, share the information with someone. Even if you don't go for a police complaint for some reason, try to spread the information, try to speak to people, try to make others aware, try to make others who may be victims of become victims of such kind of a fraud, try to make them aware. So these are the things that we have to discuss about, the psychology of con artists, psychology of frauds, and the psychology of their victims too. Thanks for listening. That's it.